I take my vagina very seriously. I haven't always been serious about it, but really, I should have been. And if you ask me, all of us should take the vagina more seriously. I got serious about 4 years ago when I lost the ability to pee. And I had no choice but to get very clinically acquainted with the landscape between my legs. Doctors thought my bladder was broken and had me self-catheterizing every 4 hours. I thought this would be the rest of my life until they referred me to a pelvic floor doctor who hooked me up to a biofeedback machine. It sounds bad. And in reality, it was even worse than it sounds. There I was, 3 days a week in the stirrups, drinking a solution, my most sensitive parts with probes and electronic sensors monitored by this godsend of a nurse who encouragingly called my urine liquid gold. We determined that by holding my urine and ignoring urges to pee for long periods of time, years of flying in a flight suit designed for men and decidedly inconvenient for women, a full bladder, under the weight of body armor, you could say I mind over mattered myself into a complete malfunction. We've all heard about the 10-hour teacher's or nurse's bladder, but we rarely hear about the consequences. It's simple. You refuse to use it, you lose it. Waiting rooms are full of men and women with cases just like mine. I spent the better part of a year, a few days every week in the doctor's office doing pelvic floor therapy with Benoit balls and breath work on the toilet. You do Kegels with different size Benoit balls to build nerve and pelvic wall dexterity. This improves sensation, something that was sadly non-existent for me at the time. Sure enough, I eventually re-potty trained myself and often think that if I were asked my proudest accomplishment during a job interview, learning to pee would be my most honest answer. But as fascinated as I was with this renewed mind-body connection, I was also concerned that if my plumbing was so dysfunctional, what else down there might be out of service, if you know what I mean. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew when a certain button was pushed repeatedly, it worked. But I really wasn't confident about much beyond that, and I wanted to learn everything there was to learn about it. So, in pursuit of realizing my full potential of my sexual pleasure, I started attending classes like sexual ecstasy, sensual alchemy, and erotic sovereignty. I limited my study to the fully clothed, G-rated courses because while I was curious, I was also a little conservative, which is a safe way of saying I'm shy. And if I'm completely honest, I was also envious, even a little jealous of some of my would-be classmates. I mean, it sounds pretty intimidating to walk into a room full of beautiful women, all different shapes, sizes, colors, ethnicities, and ages, who are fully embodied in their, quote, feminine energy or divine essence, of which I absolutely knew nothing. According to the testimonials, these women step away from their chaotic lives, casually disrobe, and then completely sober, mysteriously breath themselves into effortless orgasmic states, sometimes in front of a mirror, like it's nothing more than a downward dog during yoga class, right? Yeah, okay, so intimidating is an understatement. Enter the pandemic. And an email that told me the Tantra Institute went virtual with their classes at half prices. What better way to optimize my corona-imposed celibacy than to learn some new techniques in the lay of the land, so to speak? I could ask all my awkward questions from the comfort of my own home, free of distractions and the attention of a handsome spectator eager to learn along with me. I immediately signed up for the discounted yoni egg class and added my very own rose quartz egg to the order. Such a bargain at half price. As I do, I emailed a few friends about this exciting new step in my personal development, and I encouraged the ladies to join me with the link to registration. None of them bothered to respond, which isn't unusual when it comes to invitations like this. They're content to let me be the guinea pig, and in some cases, I think even pleased to vicariously live through my misadventures. Believe it or not, a longtime male confidant is the only one who replied. He is rather fond of the female anatomy himself and occasionally indulges the erotic side of my writing. He simply asked, Anne, are you serious about the egg? It seems OBGYNs don't endorse the practice. Well, I was very serious. I felt my cheeks burning up. How dare he second guess the perfect decision I just made about my yoni? Immediately, I turned to Google to find some evidence that this man had absolutely no idea what the hell he was talking about. Instead, I find article after terrible journal article condemning yoni eggs, unsanitary, potentially hazardous. There were even lawsuits. I guess I assumed the eggs were as safe as Benoit balls, but apparently eggs are porous. They collect bacteria and they can introduce infection. I thought this was like saying we should never masturbate because bacteria under the fingernails, and to each his or her own, really. But now I couldn't be sure what was thinking, my common sense or my defensive ego. So to be safe, I decided to call the pelvic floor doctor for a professional opinion. Rosette, the receptionist, answered. She's a lovely, well-manicured Latina who wears bright colors and a delicate gold cross. She speaks with a rich accent. I explained I have to talk to the doctor about yoni eggs. Rosette asked me to repeat myself several times and then tried to clarify. Are you saying an egg, like with a shell? I said, no, it's more like a rock. She asked me to spell yoni, so I did. Y-O-N-I. She read it back to me and asked, what is this, the yoni? I told her it's the vagina. She gasped. You put a rock into your vagina? I assured her, no, I haven't yet. I'm just thinking about it. I want to talk to the doctor first. Rosette was resolute. Ma'am, I really don't think you should put an egg or a rock in there. It seems like not a good idea to me at all. But okay, I'll have the doctor call you right away. So Easter Sunday arrives, and having not yet heard from the doctor, I zoom into the class with my Benoit balls, figuring, what's the worst that could happen? Right off the bat, someone breaks the ice and cheerfully asks our instructor, so, did you deliberately plan the yoni class to be on Easter? The instructor is sitting cross-legged on a luxurious furry mat in her high-rise apartment overlooking the Manhattan skyline. She's wearing jewelry she makes herself, unapologetically braless underneath a simple house dress. And with big hair full of untamed golden curls, she's everything you'd hope a modern-day goddess would be. She admits to us that it was a happy accident, but she said she was so delighted with the idea that from now on, she plans to host class every Easter and intentionally mark it that way. We roar with laughter and then learn exactly how to hide our eggs for the next 3 hours. The class was remarkable. I learned so much and had so much fun that I signed up to attend 2 more times. In fact, I'll be in class again this Sunday, and I've got my egg all ready to go. Now I know at least a few of you, 1 or 2 out there, are as curious as I am. People like us, we just can't help ourselves. The rest of you who don't want to see, just cover your eyes for a second. If you can peek if you get curious too. But this is the egg. They come in 3 sizes. This is a large one. Small ones are for the more advanced practice, and I'm very much a beginner. But in my colorful imagination, someday my yoni will be like a boa constrictor and really scare the hell out of a visitor with a sudden and impressive chokehold. Okay, so that's really just a bad joke. Yoni eggs actually do the complete opposite. They soften, relax, sensitize, they facilitate blood circulation, which is wonderful for all kinds of reasons. So by now you might be wondering, what's the moral or the point of the story? Well, the most obvious moral is that when you have to pee, don't hold it. The point is, if you or someone you love is looking for something safe, fun, and empowering to do next Easter, consider the yoni egg class. And if you do sign up, you'll already have a friend in the class because I'll be there. And finally, looking back on the weeks I spent hooked up to that biofeedback machine, I never would have guessed that a broken bladder would have been one of the best things to ever happen to me. But I have to confess that it is. It gave me the permission and confidence to explore something that really feels good in my body and reclaim it in a powerful way. Let's face it, no matter how well we try to take care of them, things do break eventually. I hope that whatever things have broken or are still yet to break in our lives are also the things that help us bloom in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. The shamans would remind us that an egg cracked from the outside ends life. An egg cracked from the inside begins life. In either case, life continues on assuredly as spring follows winter. Let's not be so full of suffering and sorrows there isn't room enough for even just a sip of pleasure. We're human after all, and we came here to feel incredible pleasure sometimes too. Thanks so much for tuning in, for your support. Have a great weekend.